You only lacked self-belief. You will find that that's always the difficulty in your life, no matter what you're doing or where you're trying to go. It's that self-belief. And it could have been a more challenging for you now as our world is changing quite rapidly and we're each developing or uncovering things that we never knew. And that's what happened for me. Um, Several years ago, 2 years ago, when I started doing some Wilhelm channeling sessions. They were just Sunday groups. This was back in 2023. And so I did one on March the 19th. And when you listen to it, you will understand what's happened today. Wilhelm has given me information that really aligns with the organization of our universe. Nothing's happening accidentally. There's movement in our planets that have regular movements, let's say, that cause things to happen over time and we start to figure it out. Wilhelm gave me the ability to figure that out. And so I went to find a message that was given on March the 25th of 2024, and it sent me back to a different recording. But you will understand this. Let me read the message first, and then I'm going to leave the recording so you can hear it because it's really a great one. And you will see that Wilhelm has answered all of your questions. It's come through in all the information they've given me. And the only difficulty you have is not having answers to your life and where you want to go. This work has given us all of it. March 25th, 2024. You only lacked self belief. We have spoken of this often, but you will understand why today. We refer to a message we provided several years ago on this date and our live conversation with you later today. Seek and ye shall find. Another interpretation of that saying is that whatever you believe is real for you will indeed be found. You create your reality through your thoughts, which are powerful, if you will, by which are powered, if you will, by your beliefs. If you believe that the world is scary and dangerous, you will find it so. If you believe you do not deserve what you desire, that will be the case for you. It is important to begin examining particular results in your life experience and recognize that they show up for you because, on some level, they are following your underlying beliefs about yourself and the world in which you live. To change your results, seek to change your beliefs. And that's what I'm doing. It's just challenge. It was surprising to find this message and the recording, but I want you to have it because this is why I want you to understand why I am changing and putting out all of Wilhelm's work because it can change your life, my life it has, and then it can actually change our world. You deserve to live the best life ever, and this work will give it to you. Enjoy the video. See you soon. Hello, everyone. So happy you're here. Give us just a moment, and what we're going to do is let everyone come into the room. Those who might be showing up in person, give us a moment. But in the meantime, what we will do while this music is on, this is perfect. We need to become centered, meaning coming into our bodies, coming into presence in this moment at this time. And we can all do that together. Take a big breath. Hold it for a bit. Let it go slowly. Feel your body relax. We'll do another. A big breath. Feel presence coming into your body. Feel yourself relax. That relaxation is moving down your body. You're feeling grounded in your seat. And one more. Now let it go slowly. You're almost here.
And we are ready to begin. We are so pleased you're here, and we are so glad that we attracted you. We're saying that first because you've never ended up in an accidental place in your life. Your lives have not been accidental. And you're here on this day because we knew that we would bring you here so you would understand what was happening in your life and in your world. We knew that many of you would have some fear. So we are so grateful for the first question that we did receive, and we're going to get to all of them today. But the first question that we did receive, which was exactly what we wanted to hear from each of you, how uncomfortable you were with the conditions of your world and what was happening, and you're thinking God could not be involved in all of this. How could this be happening? How could people in parts of the world be starving and falling apart? How could you have all the horrible weather things going on? Because they were waiting for you to show up. That's it. They were waiting for you to show up. You each have been on your individual evolutionary journeys, and you planned on being on your planet in this incarnation at this time so you could help your world at the biggest, most significant time in the history of your universe. That's why it seems so chaotic to you. You've had times throughout your civilization where you've moved through periods, and we gave you one marker, which was in 2012. There are many others, and Roger has an awareness of this, which we could go into if that becomes necessary. However, 2012 was another time where there was movement, because you, as humans, use physical time, your calendar years, human years, to keep track of things. But what we want you to do is let go of that. And we've been saying that for a while. This is why we've been giving you messages 10 years apart to show you that you each have a divine plan. You're connected to God. You're connected to Source. You're connected to all that is, which is a term we love using more because it doesn't exclude any of you in terms of your beliefs. But we want you to understand that the importance of you being on the planet at this time is so much more than any of you could have known. And we're giving you this today because you're going to start moving into another period of revolution. This is how it's going to feel to you, but it's actually evolution. It's a spiritual evolution, but you will start moving through that in the next couple of days, which is why we wanted to begin today, because we need you to see things in a completely new way. And that is understanding that what is happening exactly as it's happened in your life is that you move through some difficult, challenging things, and some of them look scary, so you could come to understand how great you were, so that you could understand that you do have excellence. You can't imagine, you couldn't have imagined that we gave you this in 2012, but we did. And then we also knew that you would be here. And we also knew that we would attract you. See, because the law of attraction is real. You're never in an accidental place. You only decide at what time you're going to listen, because all we're doing is speaking to your higher self that has been speaking to you your entire life, telling you, please do more. Please start loving yourself. Please let go of all your old stuff. So we're just helping you today, and that's what we're going to do. So we would like to begin with your questions.
Okay. Question number one that we got in the email: what changes are happening in the universe right now that might be affecting my energy?
We love that. Thank you so much for that question. What is affecting your energy is exactly what we have on the screen. How could we have planned that? You see, because you have so much more within you that you can do, but you've been doubting yourself a little bit, and you've been holding back, and you've been waiting. Now is the time. This is why you're here. This is why we wanted to speak with you. No, you have been withholding yourself, and that feeling that you have of affecting your energy is saying that you have more that you could bring to your life and that you could bring to the world. Now, many of you don't understand, or have not understood up until this time, how valuable you are. Because, see, your energy is the most important thing that you possess. And that energy, when it's of an up-leveling, of an uplifting type, when it's of love and light, you're helping change your world. We've said this all before, and if you go back to any of the messages we've given you over the last 3 years especially, we've said that you would move through these things, and we didn't want you to have fear and doubt. And it's just a process. You exist in your consciousness and you have different levels. And so you will understand more as this time moves on. But everything that we have given you was to encourage you to keep stepping into yourself. That's all. We just want you to love yourself. And yes, when you're feeling that lack of energy, you're just being guided. You're just being pushed a little bit. Just say, I'm going to love a little bit more. I'm not going to be afraid. I'm going to start owning who I am. That's why you're feeling it. But don't worry, it's going to get bigger. We're saying that because there'll be more things that will happen in your world that will cause you to want to love yourself, because you're going to witness other things. And that is why you are on the planet at this time. And we're so grateful that you're doing it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Next question. Hi, Roger. Can Wilhelm comment on May 22nd worldwide portal openings, how we can best tap into and use that energy? And also, the timing seems incredible as humanity begins to face the letting go of old controlling paradigms.
Yeah.
Will these portals help us to release victim consciousness, which resides in each of us, and connect us more to our higher selves? And thank you for being here to help in our expansion.
Well, you're doing the same thing. See, because you couldn't have written that unless you had a deep knowing of what was occurring, unless you had a deep understanding of why you were here and how you're going to bring this information forth to many others. And this is what we want to keep encouraging you to do. And yes, there will be many other portals that are going to open, and the next ones will be in the next several days. And you always have a choice within those times, because, see, there will be so much energy happening that you have to decide how you're going to use it. You will use it either in the purpose of love, or you're going to use it in the purpose of fear. And you get to decide. So it's always an individual choice, because you always have free will. Now, you're always given direction. You don't always accept it. You don't always move in the directions that your higher selves are telling you. But this is a time that is quite different. And there are more of you that are needed now. We say that purposely needed in your world to really decide that you're going to move through all of these different dimensions. We're so happy that you brought up the portals, because there have been many of them throughout your human civilization, and they're all in consciousness. You see, everything that we've given you and all of our work has been about your mind, about because that's where you experience everything, and that's where you have the most power and the most control is there. And then you get to come to your heart, because this is going to be a heart-centered time that you're moving into in your world, and more of you need to own your own hearts. You need to do that first, and then you're more helpful to others. But we are so pleased that you put that question in, because now you just know that you've just confirmed who you are. You've just confirmed what your path is, and you've been aware of it, and it's been moving you've been moving into that place. And now what's going to happen, you're going to grab that a little bit more. You're going to feel so much more confirmed, and that you will help so many others with the information and wisdom and knowledge that you have. And thank you so much for bringing it forth.
Okay, thank you. And that question was from Jacqueline. The question before was from Robin. And we have a live question here from Nick, who is watching right now. And Nick asks, or says, I'm not sure of my next step and would love some insights.
Your next step is to do what you love. See, this is the thing that you've had difficulty with, because you've been programmed out of what you love. It was given to you. It was implanted within you. And we know that you know what it is, because it's in front of you and you're looking at it now. And if you decide that you're going to move through your restrictions, your limitations, you're going to start to live a much different life, and you're going to do your job. And we said that because you each came to contribute something to your world. And you can only do that when you decide to love yourself, when you decide to move through your limitations and restrictions and all those old programming. Let's say this, because you've had a lot of old programming, and that's generational. And this time in your world, this movement in your planet, this is a planetary ascension, as we've said. We've called it your restructuring. But this planetary ascension that you're all moving through means that in your individual evolutionary journey, you have to move through something that was old and no longer needed. And your mind has not allowed you to do that. It's a gradual process, which is why in our work, we have you do it day by day, because that's how you learn, and it becomes permanent. You see, in that way, your change in who you are and your empowerment becomes permanent. But we're so excited that you're now looking at the thing that you want to do. But the other part of it, you have not given yourself permission to have fun, to love what it is that you feel you're meant to do, because you are meant to do it. It will sink in and you'll start to understand gradually. You'll accept more and more of it, and it will be very clear. It's actually been there, or it's been there your entire life. The problem is you have not given yourself the permission to embrace it. But this period, as you're all moving through, this is an ascension for you all. And so as you start moving into this and accepting more in your consciousness, the thing you're supposed to do is going to be quite clear. You're just going to start loving it now.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for your question, Nick. The next question that we have for Wilhelm is from Erica. Erica asks, says, I bought a vocal course by Roger over a decade ago, and I only knew him to be a vocal coach, but now I find that he is also a channel. These are two forms of expression that are very important to me, so I figure this connection is no accident. Can you comment on the relevance between all of this?
Yes, nothing's accidental, as we said when we first came in. And you didn't find Roger accidentally. You found him because he was connected to music. Music is a portal, another one that you might all think of, because it connects you to that higher source. And so you were attracted to that energy, you see. And then that energy gave you a little more permission to accept this other part of yourself. It's always been there, that you've been doing it. You have been accepting it, but now it's going to be more because you've just been given more permission as you've made these connections. And then what you're going to do is you're going to attract others who will be moved because of your example, because of what you're willing to express through your life journey now. None of you have been in accidental places. You just figure out what to do at a specific time. That's all. But you've never been in an accidental place. Now, many of you have different things that you love to do. Let's say that in the physical material plane, you have different things that you want to do. But they're all connected to what is authentic and innate within you. You just decide when you're going to allow them to come into formation, when you're going to allow them to manifest, and it's all a process, as we've said. You progress in increments, meaning you accept yourself a little bit more each day. And as you do that, you build this momentum. But now it's far more important for you to take a bigger step into this acceptance and expression, we might say, to others in this loving way. And that's going to make the biggest difference in your world. And we're so happy that you are figuring out your path and knowing that you do have this divine plan that you've been on, and now it's being made clear to you.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. Thank you, Erica. Next question comes from Sean. What is blocking my access/connection to my highest power?
You. We want you all to understand, please do not, you are not allowed to judge yourselves now. You are not, because you awaken at different times in different places within your evolutionary journey, and it's always the right time. But it will not be that time if you judge yourself for not having done it before. This is exactly why we have the message on the screen for you. We wanted you to understand, because we knew that you would be judging yourself because you think you haven't done something, you haven't gotten to the place that you wanted to be yet. Yes, but then the other part of you, many of you do this, and we want you to pay attention, because you're not understanding that it's the energy that is important. You've done so many other things that have energetically shifted your world. You've done so many things that have brought love into others that you've been bringing into the world. You've done that. That's a huge contribution. But again, we want you to understand, and if you keep looking at that message we gave in 2012 for this date, nothing's accidental. We wanted you to understand you're always going to be in pursuit of that excellence, and you're never going to get there. You're never going to reach it. So, but you hold yourself back from the progression that you could make in this moment when you judge yourself for not being somewhere that's imaginary to you. We want you all to understand you are in the right place, but now just start to love it. Just start to move through whatever you feel, whatever restrictions or limitations are there. And they're always in your thinking and your perceptions. And so start to look for, and this is the time we all need to have much more gratitude and forgiveness. We need you to work with both. You have to forgive yourself for what you think you didn't do before because you were just in process of understanding things. That's all. And so as you offer that forgiveness, you open up so much more love and light and energy into your world, and that's what is needed. All of you exist at this time on your planet to be able to do that, to be able to give your essence. You have no idea how important just your essence is. And we want to say this, it includes everything you think you screwed up, every mistake you made. That was perfect. How could you become more if you hadn't screwed up something, if you haven't failed at something? No, it's all a progression, and you're always on that road. And we're so pleased that you've done such a magnificent job.
Thank you for that. Thank you for your question, Sean. Next question comes from Don. Can Wilhelm connect with me on where my vibration is at the moment and why my healing and what my healing potential is? Thank you.
Your healing potential is immense. Your healing potential is unlimited. There's none of you unlimited. They're just levels that you move through. That's all. And so, you cannot judge whatever level you might exist in now. We give you Roger as a perfect example. He spent so much of his life denying that he could do this, denying that he was a mystic, denying that he was a sage, and he had all this information because it wasn't meant to become this big until now. It's the same for each of you. This is why we said you're in the right place. And so your potential is going to continue to expand, but we need you to not judge yourself. The biggest thing that most of you do is you think you're supposed to be somewhere else, and this has started when you came into the world, because you start comparing yourself to others, which is the first mistake most of you make, because you're supposed to be unique, different, and that's how you make the biggest contribution. But when you start comparing yourself, then you start this whole neural process, you're creating these neurotransmitters in your brain that are telling you you're not enough, and we have that on the screen as well. Because you think those low moments are who you are. They are not. They are just times where you're moving through some lack of understanding. So your healing is occurring now, and it's been happening for the longest time. But now you're at a place where it's going to start to accelerate. We're so happy about that, because you're going to start to see very quickly how, as you move through each one of those little restrictions and things that have been in your thinking about who you are and your importance in the world, more is going to open up. And this is going to happen for all of you during this time, because you would not be alive during this planetary ascension if that were not true. And so we're just, everything we have given you in all of these years has been to help you move through your fear, your doubt, and your disbelief about who you are. And this, again, we want you to get rid of the time thing. We want you to get rid of your chronological age as well, because that's the thing that gets most of you screwed up. You have human years that you live, right? But your evolutionary journey is disconnected from that. It's whatever your complete ancient past has been about. So it's going to be different for each of you, but you're moving through those things now. So, and we're just going to keep loving you through it. That's all, because we know what you're doing, and we're so pleased.
Thank you for that. Thank you for your question, Don. Next question that was sent in comes from Trevor. Some of us have listened to others who channel higher beings in our universe who aim to guide mankind. They talk of things like 5D and a raising of our vibrations to create a better world. I'd like to believe that to be the case, but above and beyond the Russia-Ukrainian war, there are another 15 wars taking place in the world, which we rarely hear about in our news media. In all, there are terrible atrocities being committed to men, women, and children. In turn, we are seeing a rise in extreme right-wing politics, which benefit the wealthy but never ordinary people who are susceptible to the nationalistic playbook of blaming others. Migrants, for example, legitimate asylum seekers trying to escape war-torn terrors, famine, torture, and so on. As such, my belief in seeing change from raised vibrations is sorely challenged. What do you have to say, Wilhelm?
We're so pleased that you're noticing. See, because that's why you're here. You are the one who are meant to notice. Not everyone's going to know this, what you did. You see, you're seeing it all, but now you're going to think, what am I going to do? How am I going to change this? Well, you're going to change it energetically. And you change that by one, acknowledging what you're seeing, which not everyone can do because they don't have the kind of fortitude, mental acuity that you do to notice these things. And so you did. That means that's part of your path. And your path means that you have to let go of the restrictions and judgments that you've had on yourself so you can start taking it out of the collective, that's the universe, and then energetically things start to change. We told you a long time ago that you could end the war in Ukraine if more of you decided to love yourselves. You don't understand that, but it is energetic. You should understand now because your sciences have developed, your quantum sciences are coming about. This is a quantum field that you're all moving into now, and it's about your consciousness. You have to understand the 5D, fifth dimension, however you think of that, it's just an up-leveling of your awareness, of your consciousness. And you each do it at different times and in different ways, but you're always doing that if you're deliberately looking like you as you are. Now, you're going to figure out, how can I make a difference? It may be something physical. You do something in the physical material realm, that you do money or volunteer or do something, whatever feels right for you. But the awareness of it is signaling to you that you have a path, that you're here to serve, to open up. And it's going to be energetic, but it has to come through you enjoying your life. Now, this is the other part that we're going to give you because it's very important to talk about it now. You have to allow yourself to prosper. And we mean that in every single way, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and financially. It's all the same because it's all energy. And the energy that your world needs is for more of the light and love to come through, which is higher vibrational energy. And that's within each of you. And as you move through that in your life, you add to the collective and you make such a huge difference. You will not accept that right away, which is why we keep going over it and giving you more information to kind of move you into those places of acceptance. Let's talk about your different dimensions of understanding. Now, you must understand that when we're speaking through Roger, he's not completely aware of where we are. And this is why we've asked many of you before to have him listen to these recordings because he won't remember much of what's come through. You each have the ability to do that, and you do it all the time. You just aren't paying attention. You may think of it when you're having dreams at night. You know that you're not in your physical bodies because you're seeing other things. That's a different level of consciousness, which is a different dimension. The fifth dimension is just a different level, higher level of consciousness. The way you get there is by letting go of your restrictions, your limitations, your judgments, and your prejudices. That's all. But it's a process because you also have carried generational beliefs with you that are on play at this time in your world, which is why it's so chaotic, as we've been saying. Everything that we've given you for more than 3 years has talked about exactly what is happening now. There were no accidents, but we knew that many of you could not hear us because most times you can't see things until they're right in front of your face. However, you're going to start trusting your intuition a lot more. And as you begin doing that magically, and we've said this before, magically, you will start seeing things in other parts of your world changing. There are thousands of people on your planet right now who are doing the same work as Roger, and they know that their mission now is to up-level and help others. They all know it. And that's why you're hearing all of those others. And so this is why we're bringing through this information. You're right on track. And we just want you to be patient with yourself because the understanding and acceptance just takes a physical time for most of you. But we're going to help push you there a lot quicker.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you for your question, Trevor. The final question that we had sent in before we really move into the live Q&A is from Lester. Lester asks, what if I can't seem to find my authentic purpose, my reason for coming here, my innate goal?
You will. This is why we said we want you to be patient. You each have different journeys that you're on, and they're all ancient, and you're not going to all go back to the memories as Roger's doing. You won't all have that, but you will start to uncover the parts of yourself that you've been denying. And that will come about, and it's a process that happens, and it happens for every human. You know, sometimes you won't pay attention to it. People leave their bodies, their physical bodies, because they've done with their things before they reach that place. But that's not you, because you're still going. All of you who are still in physical form, it means that you still have much more to give your world. You're not going to ever be done. It doesn't matter your age as well. And that's why we keep speaking about it, because you have to get rid of it. We're looking at someone who has had moved through all the difficulties much, much earlier, horrible things earlier in his life, healed everything due to the work that we have given. And most of you can't accept that, but you will, because it's the same thing for you. It's acceptance of the ability, talent, and gift that you have that are always innate, that are always within each of you. So it doesn't matter how long it takes, and we need you to get rid of that. The other thing is, too, most of you are looking in the wrong place, you see, because you've already lived so much of your purpose. You've already brought so much into the world. This is why we have in our work, for instance, we have all of you go back and retrace your lives to find the value that you have missed. And you do it all the time. You just don't see it because it's second nature to you, you see. But now it's more important for the rest of the world to feel the energy of who you are. And that only comes from moving through your limitations and your self-judgment. Once you start noticing, this is mindfulness again, once you start noticing the self-judgment that you have on yourself and start consciously changing that, cognitively changing that, you change. And that's what we're always about.
Thank you for that, and thank you for your question, Lester. And now we are moving into the live Q&A portion. And so you have the opportunity to ask your question right here, right now, to Wilhelm. And to do that, you can click on the raise hand button on your Zoom box right now to ask your question, or you can hit the Q&A button, type your question in the box, and I will ask it on your behalf. And we will let this simmer for about a minute. If you have any questions, go ahead and raise your hand or ask it in the chat box now. And as we wait on that, is there anything else that Wilhelm has to share?
Yes.
People are, yes.
Yes, we wanted to give you, we wanted to make you completely aware of what is happening in your world and why we started doing these sessions, why we are doing them now. Because you're going to move into some astrological changes, galactic changes that are happening on your planet that are purposeful, but they're going to cause a little bit of disruption. You're going to look a little scary, possibly, but understand that it's all happening to make things better. You cannot change anything you are unwilling to see. You're not going to change anything that's been covered up, and your world has had many things covered up for eons. And so this is why this is the most important life that any of you have ever experienced. So, but just don't be alarmed by things that start to change, and much more is going to be revealed. And as you might understand why 3 years ago, we started saying you're moving through this restructuring and the United States would lead the way. And many of you didn't understand what we meant by that, but you will begin to see it. And just understand that it's an energetic change. So if you get into this right, wrong, or good or bad, that's a little bit of trouble. Just think in terms of energy. Okay.
Okay. And at the moment, there doesn't seem to be any additional questions. And, oh, okay. We have Robin, who is raising a hand. Robin, go ahead with your question.
Hi, Wilhelm. I would like for you to expound a little bit more on how America is going to lead the way into this ascension process.
They're going to start loving more. We're so happy you asked that, and we can go into a little explanation. Now, when we began giving you this information about the United States would lead the way, that didn't make sense because it was in 2020 when they were moving through a lot of troubles and difficulties, in which they still are, but that's because they set themselves up as a leader more than 240 some years ago, you see, and that's when you had your planet Pluto was moving in a different direction. There's a thing happening, and it's coming up in a few days, where Pluto's going to start moving into a different area, which has not happened. And so the energy of the United States, which the world has watched for all of these years in terms of being the example, they're going to start changing. This is why we're talking about all the things that are going to be revealed to you all that are going to seem disruptive. You must understand that it has to come up to be changed. but it's going to look a little like people are going to be yelling and upset and protesting and doing different things. And that's which has been happening all over your world. But the United States has been the biggest influence of that because they carry the biggest power. As we've said before, you've had other civilizations at different times, ancient history that you don't remember, well before the United States was ever in existence, but you had different civilizations that were the leaders. And we have spoken of this because we come from the Mayan a calendar, as we've said. That's why we've used that calendar. You have ancient history that's gone back. And so you're at a place of evolutionary change. And for these last it's almost been 300 years, but we'll just say the 240 some years, the United States has built themselves up to be the proponents of freedom and inequality, and that hasn't happened yet. So there's a reckoning. When you go through a Pluto return, which no human has experienced, but when you move through that, it is a time of reckoning, looking at what didn't we do correctly. Now, the way this happens is that each of you have to do it yourselves. You have to do it within you. That's why you're having all these things happening and you're having the difficulties, the problems, challenges coming up, so you can move through them. But you will, because it's all in your thinking. All the work that we have given you was to change your thinking, and we give it to you in a way that you do it gently. You do it a bit at a time, and then it starts to become new, and then you move yourself to a new dimension. Our whole point of all the work we have given you is to guide more of you. We've said it's an ascension guide that we've given you to guide more of you to that fifth dimensional state of existence and being. You start to see everything in a new way. You see yourselves in a new way. You see others differently as well, because you start to understand, oh, this is just all part of the dance that we're all doing to get back to our source, to get back to God, to get back to our original connection of source. That's what we're doing. Everything that we gave you in 2012, we spoke of your physical life experience, every single one. Because we wanted you to understand you're not in physical bodies forever. You're eternal spirits. You're here now developing your soul. The world is doing the same thing, and the United States will help, but they just have to go through their restructuring, and you're all going to help in that effort because it's energetic. Do we have more, and does that answer your question?
Yeah, Robin, go ahead.
Yes, I really am loving this discussion. So can you speak a little bit more about how do we perceive the disruption but not be pulled into it?
You have to remember that you have to see things, you have to perceive things in a new way. Okay. This is why, again, why we're giving you this information, because when you see things that are disruptive, that are uncomfortable, that seem discordant, that means, oh, I have to start loving myself a bit more. You see, that's the energetic shift that you're going to make. This is the time where each of you need to appreciate your importance in this world. This is why we've given you all of these messages, so that you can start owning yourself. It's a gradual thing, because see, in that process, you have to move through your limitations that some of them you've picked up in this lifetime, but many more of them now, and we want you all to understand this, many more of them that are coming up now are generational. Your ancestors. We gave you a message so long ago that we said your ancestors are watching with curiosity because they're waiting to see what you're going to do. Are you going to make things better? Are you going to take up the mantle of really improving your world? And many of you had these ideas when you were younger. Oh, I'm going to do something that's going to make a difference in the world. Oh, I'm going to change the world. But then you start letting go of it. This is the time that you need to grab that a bit more, and you do it with love. When you see these things that are going to come up, because there are going to be many of them. This is why, again, we're going to do these for the next 4 weeks, and then we'll see where you are after that. But we know that you will need this now. But your job then is to see things in a new way. Is to know that all the disruption that you're seeing is for a grander purpose, and that is to cause your world to evolve and ascend.
All right. Thank you very much. And Robin, thank you so much for your questions. We have a question in the chat from Don. Is there a new financial system coming?
Yes. Yes, there is. And you're all helping to create that. We're so happy you brought that up. because we thought that many of you would be a little concerned about when you saw what was happening in your banks recently. Banks are failing and people are worried and trying to shore up things. We said that you don't have to have a recession. You still at the place where you don't have to go move through that. But there is a wealth and income redistribution that needs to happen because you haven't taken care of all the other people, you see? And this is why you were looking at in the first question that we had about what about all the other countries where these things are happening? Yeah, you need to distribute this. This is why we said it'll be a restructuring. It's going to be a completely new form. And what you're going to have is a world where more people are equal and prospering and having what they want. And you're feeding others, and then you're going to start changing your weather also, which we've spoken of often. But yes, this is how you each are going to make your contribution by when you see something that comes up, and it'll be there. We just want you to remember what we're saying. Look at it and say, oh, yeah, this means I'm supposed to love more now. This means I'm supposed to have a different perspective and understand that this is for healing. That's what's happening in our world. And you're all contributing equally. There's no one has more power than anyone else. You just, over centuries, over eons, you've formed different beliefs, and you've done it racially, and you've done it in your genders. Why are you still controlling women? You see, why aren't they equal yet? These are part of the things that you're moving through. And we've been speaking of the feminine energy during this time, where many more of you are going to understand how important that is in your lives and in your world. And that is how you each are going to change what you're going to see coming up quite soon.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for your question, Don. We have another question. This one from Trevor. And before I ask it, I just want to remind you guys that, yes, you are free to click on the raise hand button to ask your question. And if you'd rather type it into the chat, just click on the Q&A button on your Zoom control, ask your question, and I will ask it on your behalf. Trevor asks, everyone has a weakness in their personality which perhaps they feel it inhibits their progress, mentally, physically, emotionally, or spiritually. Do you have a, quote, cure, unquote, of that weakness to make progress, or can you perceive that weakness to be a strength, something you can love about yourself and perhaps help others also in doing so?
Sometimes it's so wonderful for us to hear your questions because you already know the answer because you just said it in the end of your question. Yes, it is a gift. When you start to notice, and we have a bit of that on the screen, we have it in the message. Nothing is accidental. When you're feeling those insecurities, when you're feeling those things where you feel that you are not quite enough, that means that's just an area that you wanted to move through because that's a false belief that you've been carrying. We don't know where you started carrying it, but it's a false belief. And so when you notice those things, those insecurities, oh, yeah, I don't feel so much good about myself in this area. Well, let me see how I can work on that. Let me see how I can start to change. And it's always going to start in your thinking, in your mind, in your perceptions. And you have the ability to change that. You have studied, you have uncovered so much in your science, especially neuroscience, to understand how things happen. You understand that your brain has these chemicals at work as you are living in physical form. And as you use them in a way that is going to move you forward, then you start to feel better about yourself. This is the reason that you all might move through your periods of depression. And we've talked about this often because Roger had clinical depression. So he understands this, but it is chemicals, you see. And so once you start to change that, and you can do it naturally, you all can do that, but sometimes you might need a little extra help with other things, but you can always do it with your intention. And so the insecurities are never to be feared, because none of you were ever born inferior. None of you were born insignificant. You just discover this as you have your experiences. As you move through your life, you keep discovering. And it's a process. The reason we've given you everything in increments is that you don't do it all at once. So this is why we want you to be patient and just continue working. Just continue doing it. And our entire purpose of our work and everything we've done is to cause more of you to love and appreciate who you are. Because everything that you've moved through, every difficulty, every challenge was purposeful. You just start to figure it out and you release the judgment of it, and then you find the beauty of it. That's where we're going.
Awesome. Thank you. And yes, this will be the last call for any additional questions. We'll give this about another minute, just in case anything comes through for anyone. And in the meantime, yeah, what else does Wilhelm have to share?
When you have your anger, because many of you will have that, you have opinions about everything. You're supposed to. We call them preferences, but you're going to have opinions. They're going to be coming up for review. And sometimes when they come up, you're going to have a bit of anger. Understand that the anger is you becoming awakened to something within you that you've been denying and you want to make a change. Do not judge the anger. Just do what you can in your moment of quiet to move through it, to understand it, to ask questions of why it's there. Because it's alerting you to make some other movement in your life that's going to help improve your life and also add your essence, your light and love to the world, to the collective, and your world becomes much better. We must say that this is not going to end tomorrow. We don't want you to become impatient with yourself or your world, because you have at least another year or more of this transition. It'll feel better in in few months. It'll start to feel better, but you won't understand the complete shift, because it'll be a completely different world in another year and a half from now. But right now is the time where you're meant to do the work, and that work is about moving through your own restrictions and limitations and just loving who you are.
Wonderful. And yes, we have another question that just came through. Jacqueline asks, the weather is changing. Mm-hmm. We have heard it will become much colder. Mm-hmm. Anything you can add?
It's going to shift, and all of the weather conditions that have been happening, as we've told you, you have lack of belief that you really affect all of these things, but you do, and you'll start to figure that out. And so as you make those changes, it'll take a while for your planet, for Gaia, to catch up and appreciate the efforts that you're all beginning to put into it to make things a little cleaner, a little safer, or a little more conducive for human living and existence. That's what you're all doing now. And so, but you needed to pay attention. None of you, not enough were paying attention. There are very few people who are just saying, okay, we need to look at the environment a bit more. And it's not about what happens on this physical plane, because, your planet could blow up at some point. It could go away. That doesn't matter. But your soul never does. Your soul is eternal. And that is where you exist. And so you use everything, as we've said many, many times, you use everything in your physical life experience, all things material and physical, you use those things to develop your soul. When your soul is saying, I want something that's going to be for the good of all that is, you start making different choices about everything, including your environment and how you're using your resources.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jacqueline. And yes, please keep the questions coming. We have another 16 minutes in which we would love to fill this with questions for Wilhelm. The next question that came through, Don asks, are there lots of galactic groups helping humanity?
Yes. Oh, thank you so much. There's so many. And they're in places that you would never even expect, but they're energetic again. And they're, we'll speak of this, because some of you this will be coming up, and you're seeing so much more of it in your news that people are saying, wait a minute, I'm seeing something in the sky that's different. There's something, what are the word objects? You live in a microcosm of what your galactic beings have. And so, yes, there are other existences, there are other civilizations, there are all sorts of other things that are helpful. Nothing in your universe is to destroy you, but when you don't understand things, when they're unknown to you, it can bring up fear. Yes, they're vast amount of so much more. However, we've always said this too. You will access whatever is correct for you on this particular incarnation, this particular life journey that you're taking. If it calls for you to explore the outer spaces or go to those other places, please do that, because you'll bring in information that will be helpful for everyone. Not everyone will look at those things. Most of you become afraid of them because you think some aliens are coming to do things to you, which is not happening. There's always helpful information coming through.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your question, Don. Next question comes from Nick. What is the purpose of emotions?
The emotions guide you back to who you're supposed to be. We're so pleased that you asked that question because we gave you so much information about this more than 30 some years ago. We said your emotions are never an end to themselves. They are designed to lead you to your beliefs. Your beliefs may or may not be based on truth. You see, because the emotions that you have that are joyful and happy and fun means that you've connected to this wonderful parts of yourself. The other emotions that you might experience, which could be anger, fear, sadness, all of those means that you're disconnected to some part of yourself. That's all. And so there's signals to say you want to move through whatever that limitation is. You want to use this particular feeling of that emotion to cause it to ask questions. Why is it coming up? And as you do that, you will move through some limitation, which again is taking you back to who you're meant to be, who you're meant to become. So we never want you to, we never want you to fear your emotions. We want you to experience them. And most of you try to, this is again, such generational stuff, especially for men. We want to speak on that because men have the most difficult time of allowing that expression of emotions because you've made these judgments that somehow if you're going to feel sad or if you're going to cry or something like that, that it's a weaker nature or too feminine or whatever ideas you made up. No, all of your emotions are valuable. And once you allow them free expression and then start to ask questions, why am I having this? Why is it here? What is it trying to tell me? Then you get more answers. And then what you will find, and we love this part and we can't wait for more of you to get there, because you're going to find yourself in these elated states of being that you go, wow, why couldn't I feel this way all the time? Why didn't I have that? We want you to understand it's just a different level of awareness. And you find yourself just laughing for no reason at all because you feel joy, because you're starting to uncover all the stuff that you put on yourself. That's all. So just be patient. You're going to see these are ingrained within you. And you each have different ways that they've been programmed into your thinking. So we just want you to be patient. We've given you something over again, and we want to give you something with this as well. We use our 3 Ps: practice, patience, and persistence. Because see, you can get anywhere when you understand these. If you're not experiencing what you want in your life, you've been practicing something in an incorrect way, and it's in your thinking always. And so we know that you can change that. And then you have to be patient with yourself, because as you start uncovering these things, you're going to become impatient. You're going to either be upset that why did you know this before, or you're going to want to jump ahead and try to get something done before you've actually assimilated this new state of awareness that you found. And then you just have to be persistent. That means just keep going. Just keep going. If it's something that you're doing or trying to get to and it hasn't happened yet, you'll find out eventually if it's not the thing you're supposed to do, because you'll get sick of it and it's not feeling good anymore. And then you'll allow yourself to do the thing that you love, and that's going to be your life purpose. That's going to be your major contribution that you will give back to your world.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you for your question, Nick. All right. Any other questions? Again, you can raise your hand to ask your question, or you can type it into the Q&A box, and I will ask it on your behalf. And yeah, these questions have been very profound and very much appreciated. So please keep them coming. We're here for another 10 minutes. We're going to love more questions. And as we wait for that, what else does Wilhelm have to share before we move on to the next question?
The differences that you will see in others are the differences that you will see in yourself. We want you to keep that in mind, because you've each had different lifetimes that you've lived, and you've had different existences. You've had different roles that you've played. You've been different races. You've been different everything. So, but if you start to judge what you're seeing, you're judging yourselves. And this is going to be challenging, because you're going to see a lot of stuff you're not going to love, and that's okay. Just understand, again, just go back into that memory of why you're seeing it. You're seeing it for a couple of reasons, because you're living 2 different existences. You're living in your individual life journey, your evolutionary path. And so you're moving through those things that have been in your ancestral lineage, let's say, that you're moving through. So it's going to be different than anyone else. But you're also existing at a physical time trajectory on your planet, where the entire planet is ascending. This is why we said it's your planetary ascension. And so you have those things that you're putting together, you see? And so you're going to understand that your journey is one that you have to honor and move through all of your stuff but just appreciate, because many of you haven't done this yet, and this is why we wanted you to understand how valuable you are, because when you decide to move through your limitations and restrictions, you remove them from the collective, and more importantly, you've removed them from your ancestors.
Thank you for that. Another question came in. Jacqueline asks, we've been told that by the end of March, our world will look significantly different. In what ways?
Well, that's optimistic, and we would love to say that that's what would happen. But we can't say that where you're sitting right now, we can't say that you're all going to see that unless more of you start to really actively pursue what you're here to do. That's all, because it's the energetic, and there are too many people, and we've gone through this before, and okay, thank you for this, because we must have Roger say all of this. We had him listen to videos, sections that we did 2 years ago, where we said the same information. We were trying to get more of you to move, and he was the one who didn't move. We're just saying this because he knew that he needed to take our work a little bit bigger, but he held back, just like many of you have done. This is a different time. And so we can't say that by the end of March that it's going to be this difference, because you have a lot of stuff to move through in these next few days, actually, in a few weeks. It will be much better if more of you decide to understand what is occurring and bring your brightest, biggest light and love into the world. Then it could change. But we've been speaking about this for a long time, and sometimes many of you are not hearing us. Many of you can't hear us because you haven't taken the time to develop your awareness and consciousness to the point where you can reach a higher level of understanding. But again, we are patient because we've had to be so patient with Roger, because he would not do this for years. We're just saying that. So again, we're saying all these things as he has to be transparent, because we can't allow any of you to judge yourselves for where you are or haven't been or haven't done. The time is now, and the time is always now.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Jacqueline. And another question from Jacqueline. Are the new energies coming this week going to enable more multi-dimensionality to play with individually?
Yes. And you will have it, because there's no way that you could have asked that question without the knowingness that it would do that. Now you just have to take the next step, is that when it starts showing up, you have to embrace it, because it will be there. And you've already had a precursor to it, because your higher self has just told you to say that, because you have this awareness. Sometimes you don't trust it completely, or it doesn't feel to you that's the thing that you each do. You will judge yourself because you get this information and you're just not completely sure of it. And that's okay, because what we do is reinforce that. And we love that when you give us those questions, because we can then give you your knowledge, because that's all we're doing. It's giving you your knowledge and your wisdom that is now starting to emerge. And yes, these coming energies will give you more opportunity to do that. And so we're so grateful that you have the awareness now, because you'll be so prepared.
Thank you for that. Very powerful question. And yeah, Jacqueline says, thank you for answering.
You're welcome.
Okay. So these last few minutes, are there any final questions that we would like to ask Wilhelm before we close out? And as we wait for that, what is a closing energy that Wilhelm wants to say?
We would like for each of you to start appreciating who you are. You've had judgments about yourselves. You have judgments about what you haven't done, and then also things you have done. We need you to start to let go of that. Our whole process is about moving you through the previous limitations and thoughts that you've had about yourself, so that you can start to shine, so that you can begin to thrive. Because as you do that, you're going to dramatically shift your world. And that's what and the more people who come together in this way, this is why we're doing the groups. This is why we had Roger create our work in the way that we did, because it's more important, because we don't want you hanging out there on your own, feeling afraid. We want you to come together because it serves you to this camaraderie, to understand you're not alone. You've never been alone. But sometimes you feel that way when you're by yourselves. This is why we encourage you to come into the groups. We encourage you to join other things that are going to give you like-minded beings at this time that reinforce the belief that is within you, because we know that you all have it. We know that you've all felt something within you, that you were here to do something that was going to make a difference in your world, not only in your life, but in your world. You've had those little ideas. But the other part of it, you didn't understand how you prospering would do that. And it's all the same thing. It's all energy. Allow yourself to become prosperous in every single way, emotionally, spiritually, abundantly, all of those things. And then you start to live the life that you're supposed to have, because you're all supposed to have magnificent lives. And all we're doing is giving you the information and the guidance that could guide you there. And you're going to start understanding that really soon, because you are ascending. If we don't have more, we've loved having you here, and we will do more next week, and you'll see that it's going to all start to come together. And as we said, we were telling you this, and we want you to remember now, especially because we gave it to you more than 3 years ago, you will be fine. And we love you all very much. Thank you.
Before we fully end, I feel that this final question, the perfect question to end this on. And Jacqueline asks, is this week going to be a time for meditation to help open these energies, or any other suggestions?
Yes. Oh, yes. And the next several days, starting tomorrow through this entire week, actually, yes. Anytime you begin to feel overwhelmed, anytime you begin to feel stressed, say, I'm going to give myself quiet time. Now, this will serve so many purposes, because one, you're deciding to take care of yourself. We want you to do that, whatever that feels like. If it means go getting a massage, go lie in the pool, go outside for a walk, go into nature, do everything. When you start to feel the overwhelm of the energies coming in over this entire week, yes, please do that. That would be the most helpful thing you could do, because one, you're deciding to give yourself time. You're deciding to love yourself. And there's nothing more valuable and important at this time in your life and in your world.
Thank you, Jacqueline. That was the final question.
Thank you. And we're pleased for that question, because nothing's accidental. That is what we would like each of you to remember during this time moving forward. And by next week, you will understand what we've meant, and then you'll be in such a better place. And we're so pleased about that. And we love you so much, and thank you for being here.